Glad you clicked. What's going on? Name is G Money Richard Gadako. In this video, we're going to talk about you doing everything right as an individual, as a man, as an improving person, but you're still watching pornography. First thing I want to cover off in this video is that obviously, pornography is a deep-rooted addiction for me, probably a deep-rooted addiction for you. And it's kind of a taboo topic nowadays, and everybody, kind of wants to hide the fact that they may be addicted to it, and that they were addicted to it in the past, etc., etc. Now, there's nothing wrong. There is something wrong with it, but at this point, it's so normalized that you're expected to have that addiction. You're expected to watch porn, and if you don't, and if you haven't, and if you're trying to get off of it, you're kind of looked at as a weirdo. And that's something the mindset I want you to stray away from now. I mean, if you're ready to stop, reproducing to pixels and you really want to see more for yourself as an individual, then this is the video for you. And I'm going to just unpack, why you as an individual may still be doing everything right, going to the gym, building the business, doing the right things, reading the books, meditation, journaling, etc., 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 but you still can't break this one habit. I'm going to tell you why that is, what you need to do to start, being able to break those chains, and also really giving you a vision who you could really become. First things first is why you can't necessarily break that addiction, especially obviously, you're a type of guy that is locked the fuck in, right? You're doing what you got to do. And that was me at one point, and sometimes still is, because I relapse as well myself, and I'll be completely transparent with you guys there. Yeah, bro, like you're still going to be doing, the correct things on a day-to-day basis, a month-to-month basis, etc. And, there's still going to be that, that psychological chain in the back of your mind, because I don't know if it was any of you guys who got exposed to that pornography at a very young age, but it's going to be hard to break, and that's just the reality of it, bro. That's just the reality of it. It's going to take years, months, and a hard dedication to be able to break that addiction and to become somebody who looks past that and, stops opening up those websites, opening up those apps that are causing you to fall into those trigger traps. And that's the first thing here is trigger traps. You fall into trigger traps too often as a man, as a woman, as an individual. And what I mean by trigger traps is, anything that you're seeing on Instagram, anything that you're seeing on Snapchat, TikTok, Reddit, Twitter, those are all trigger traps. If you're falling into those on a day-to-day basis, even if you are doing the correct things, and you may scroll a little bit in your feed just has a female shaking her ass or whatever triggers women, you're going to kind of fall down into that cycle, and that cycle is going to cause you to go to the original source, right? And I mean, the next time you ever find your meat in your hands or your finger inside of you, really just rewind and reverse engineer what really happened from the jump and how you really got there. And that's going to be the only way to necessarily get to the root individual, get to the root trigger, and get to the root problem. It's going to be understanding when it happens, how it happens, and why. The next reason you actually can't break it is because it's actually something you can hide, bro. I mean, you could be doing all the right things. You could be working 12, 14, 15, 16, 17 hours a day, but, you can still hide the fact that you're doing those things. And the same goes for drugs. The same goes for anything. And you're kind of sitting in a corner and beating your meat or hiding this addiction and hiding your sexual energy. And I mean, there's a lot of other YouTubers who touch on the same kind of mindset. But what that does to your sexual energy is that it suppresses it. Your mom didn't birth you to suppress that energy, to unleash that beast. And this is the same thing I was tying into of understanding lust and how you can actually necessarily use it to your benefit, and all that sexual energy that you're suppressing and, hiding away. And, because obviously, if you're in your room and you're having sex with a female or whoever it is, and somebody walks in on you, you're going to hide, you're going to cover it up, but you're not going to be as ashamed as if you were to get caught watching pornography, male or female for that matter. So at the same time, you got to make sure that sexual energy, especially of what you're searching up, who knows what you're searching up, you can't necessarily suppress that energy. The more you suppress it, the less progress you're really going to make in your life, because that energy is, like I said in my previous video about lust and understanding the power of it and how it's not as bad as you think. That's what the top percenters are using to propel themselves forward in business, fitness, females, finances, mindsets, etc. So that's what you really have to tap into when it comes to that kind of energy. You can't suppress it at all, right? So I understand the idea, and I relate with the mindset of you doing everything correctly, but the only thing you do is watch porn. And what's sad about it too is what I've realized as well, and I think that's the one thing you need to sacrifice. That's the one thing you need to let go in order to get to that next level, in order to become the man you want to get to and really unleash your full potential. I'm realizing now that that's the one thing. That's the one thing you're missing. That's the one thing you have in your life that you need to let go. And I know it's tough, it's hard. You may not think it's a problem, but you got to start tackling it day by day. And you're not going to be able to go cold turkey. And a lot of people are. I've done it before for months and months on end. But the times when I did relapse and I found myself back in that cycle, the only thing that I did really work on was making sure the gaps in between each relapse was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was resisting those urges. Because the more urges that you resist, the stronger and stronger and stronger the urge to keep up the consistency gets. And that's the same, like I said, for focus in my last video. And the more you stay dialed in and you resist the urge to pick up that phone, the deeper and deeper and deeper you're going to go into that deep work. Same thing is going to happen for pornography. Same thing is going to happen for sales. Same thing is going to happen for everything. You know, the more and more you resist the urge to not do, or to not do something that's going to take you off the path, or to do something that's going to take you off the path, the more you resist the urge to do what's not right, that's how much more you're going to propel. So the fact that you're having those urges, you're having those temptations, is a sign that you're actually doing the right thing. And I've tied on it before in a video, the cycle of temptation. You have to be able, if you don't have a temptation to quit, if you don't realize what you're doing is bad, and if you feel like you have no addiction, you can just keep, watching pornography and then living that life of constantly reproducing to pixels in a phone and a Twitter app and a website, a www.https AI website, like HTML. You want to keep reproducing to HTML, and you see no problem with that, then that's how I know you're truly lost, and that's how I know there's no coming back for it. I mean, there might be, but at the same time, you have to be problem aware. That's the same thing with sales. Whether it's converting hot leads, etc., etc. If they're not problem aware, there's no way you're selling them. You can tell them the problems that they have, but if they didn't, realize that problem themselves, and they're not coming in inquiring to work with you, it's going to be just a much harder sell. Or if they didn't have those previous problems before and XYZ, and you realize all the people you've sold the car to, you sold pest control to, you've done any sale you've done, they had that in the back of their mind before. They had an experience with that before. So if you're not problem aware of what's going on with you and that addiction, etc., then I'm sorry, bro, it's not going to change at all. So that's really it, man. And I understand, being ambitious and doing everything else right, but still having that one thing. And it's okay to admit it, bro. You still have that one flaw. Like, you're not perfect, I'm not perfect, etc. You still have that one thing that you do, that nasty little habit. And the way to get rid of that is make sure the gaps are bigger. Set a calendar. Because for me personally, like, I almost feel like I am a kid. Like, I have no control over myself, especially when it comes to the addiction sometimes, just because, like, if I don't have an exact set schedule of what I'm going to do for every hour of every single day, then I see myself falling into it, right? And maybe it's going to take a little bit more inner work for myself. Who knows, getting closer to God, etc., etc. That could be the case for you as well, because, again, free will is very, 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 very weak. So it has to become a lifestyle. It has to become a discipline. It has to become something that you do. It has to become you, if that makes sense. So, yeah, once you finally give it up, that the person that you're going to become is the person you once were before it even started. So, love you guys. Start off tomorrow strong. Peace. Yeah.